We need to start this Monday edition of Brother from Another off talking about March Madness. And no, I'm not talking about the Sweet 16 on the men's side or South Carolina, Caitlin Clark on the women's side. We are talking about LSU though, except we're talking about Kim Mulkey putting the Mad in March Madness.
After 2 years of trying to get me to sit with him for an interview, he contacts LSU on Tuesday as we were getting ready for the first round game of this tournament with more than a dozen questions, demanding a response by Thursday, right before we're scheduled to tip off. Are you kidding me? It was just an attempt to prevent me from commenting and an attempt to distract us from this tournament. It ain't gonna work, buddy. They're trying to sell newspapers and feed the click machine. This is exactly why people don't trust journalists and the media anymore. It's these kinds of sleazy tactics and hatchet jobs that people are just tired of. I'm fed up, and I'm not gonna let the Washington Post attack this university, this awesome team of young women I have, or me without a fight. I've hired the best defamation law firm in the country, and I will sue the Washington Post if they publish a false story about me. Not many people are in a position to hold these kind of journalists accountable, but I am, and I'll do it.
The lady doth protest too much. Professor, remind everybody the class or classes you teach at BU, Professor?
Several classes, Mike. In-depth reporting, news writing and reporting, sports journalism, all sorts of news classes. All sorts of news classes at BU.
All right.
And I got to tell
so
you.
beyond our experience in this business, you're more than qualified to address the ethical conversation around Kim Mulkey's preemptive opening salvo, if you will, against the Washington Post, trying to get out ahead of it. So, Professor, break it down.
Okay, Mike, listen, as a consumer of news, just like you are, I read all sorts of newspapers. At newspapers that I agree with, newspapers that I disagree with, newspapers that are just there I have no opinion on. Left-leaning newspapers, right-leaning newspapers, neutral newspapers, if there are any of those left in these yet to be United States of America. I read the Washington Post is one of the papers that I read. Now, I don't read it every day. My wife reads the Washington Post every day, loves the Washington Post. I don't read it every day. I wasn't thinking about the Washington Post on Wednesday, on Thursday. Wasn't thinking about it. Was not thinking about the Washington Post. Was not thinking about Kip Babb, good reporter. Remember when Kip Babb worked at the Kansas City Star back in the day. I was working on a book and met a young Kent Babb and knew he was destined for great things. And good for him, he's been at the Washington Post. But I wasn't thinking about Kent Babb or the Washington Post until Kim Mulkey comes out with this statement on the, like, what are you talking about?
They were popping bottles. They were popping bottles in the office of the Washington Post. It's like,
they say, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We were going to run it regardless, and we hope that our readers are informed and educated and entertained by the writing and reporting of this story. But now, Kim Mulkey, I can't wait. I can't wait to see what's out there.
That was like a blockbuster movie trailer. That was like a summer blockbuster movie trailer right there.
I mean,
you're going to have people reading the Washington Post that don't read papers at all.
I don't know.
They'll find the aggregated version of it.
Yeah, maybe the story's unfair, Mike. I don't know. Maybe the story's unfair. Maybe the story's
That's the thing.
Maybe it's
we don't know.
It's fair, but
can we wait for it to be published?
I don't know. I don't know, but why this? What is out there? Now it makes me wonder. It makes me even more curious. What are you trying to protect? What are you trying to hide? What is being said? What kind of questions were you asked? And by the way, I don't know the whole timeline of this investigation or this feature story, whatever it is, that Kim Babb is working on in the Washington Post. I do know this from Kim Mulkey's words. If he has been trying, Babb I'm talking about, if he's been trying to interview her for 2 years, it didn't come down to Tuesday, hey, I got some questions, and you need to answer these questions right now. I'm guessing if he's been trying to interview you for 2 years, maybe a year ago, this time last year, he gave you an opportunity to answer some questions. And then 6 months ago, he gave you an opportunity to answer some questions. Then 3 months ago, he gave you an opportunity to answer some questions. And finally, he said, okay, I'm going to do the story. The time is right for the story. There's so many eyeballs on women's basketball. LSU is there. Angel Reese, Kim Mulkey. This is the coach. She coached Brittany Griner. She has some things to say about Brittany Griner that we didn't appreciate here on Brother from Another. All sorts of things. Right. Okay.
Or she didn't say.
Now is the time. I'm going now. Here, the story's going to be published, Coach Mulkey. Here's your time to declare or not. Are you coming or are we going without you? And that's how it goes. She knows better, and a lot of people don't. A lot of people listening to her, because she did a great job of conflation. I got to give it to her. Excellent job.
She had all the talking points. All the talking points.
Yes.
The media.
And, I know.
The media.
I wish. Can I whistle? If I could do the whistle like Phil Jackson. The whistles are all over the place. The media and they're fed up, and people don't trust journalists and all of these. So if you're one of those people, that's right. That's right. They came after me too. They did it. Yeah. Okay.
They came after my president.
Really?
Right.
That's really.
Yeah.
That's really. She said she's excited. Yeah. She's animating that base.
Yeah. Absolutely.
She's animating
Absolutely.
it. She's getting it going. Hey, Coach Mulkey, I don't know anything. I really don't know much about her. I know she was a baller in college. I know she has done a great job at a couple of programs on the surface. On the outside looking in, I got to give her a prop. She's a championship coach and won championships in multiple places. I know she wears like these costumes on the sideline. Well, that's a bit much. But I don't know. I don't know what's in that feature. But I sure as hell, I'm going to read that thing.
She doesn't
start
either.
To finish.
Like, she may think she knows, but she doesn't truly know either. The most hilarious thing would be if this story came out and it was pretty mild, all things considered. Like, she is, to your point, she has built up the anticipation to where, like, what if it's not a hatchet job? What if it's not a hit job? What if, because he's an actual journalist working for a credible establishment such as the Washington Post, which, by the way, I don't think they're afraid of your lawsuits. I think they got some libel lawyers of their own. I think they kind of cover their tracks when it's not their first rodeo when it comes to somebody threatening to sue the Washington Post. It's like, you know what? Sure thing. We eat breakfast 300 yards away from 4,000 Cubans trained to kill us. Okay, they're not concerned about your lawsuit threats. All right. Anyway, like, what if they didn't confirm some of the allegations?
Can I just say this?
Yeah.
Can I just say this?
Go ahead.
They're the Washington. Not Washington State, it's D.C.
We're a national organization.
We're a national organization. It's the Washington, D.C. You don't think presidents and senators and representatives have come for the Washington Post and its
all
neck
the president's
over
men.
the years?
Have you ever Watergate? I mean, come on, like this is not a
Kim
fight
Mulkey.
you want to. It's not a fight you want to pick, and this is not a fight
Kim
she's
Mulkey,
going to win.
yeah.
Kim Mulkey has too many people who don't with her. She has some fans, and she has a lot of people who with her, to where you're not going to win this PR battle. But what I was saying was, like, what if the accusations that she thinks may be in there aren't actually in there? Can we see the story first? So I'm going to reserve judgment until I read several times this anticipated article. And speaking of this anticipated article, so apparently she's pissed at the Post and Kim Babb because of a hit job they did on LSU football coach Brian Kelly a couple of years ago, right? Apparently, I'm told, according to my sources, that the second most read sports article on the Washington Post right now is Bab's piece on Brian Kelly in Baton Rouge from 2 years ago. So like, people are like, wait, what is she so mad about? Like, tell them why you're mad, mad rapper. I'm gonna tell you why I'm mad. I'm gonna tell you why I'm mad. Because of Brian Kelly. Go ahead.
I know why she's mad though. Look at it. Okay, keep that up there. Keep that graphic up. So Bab, and I saw this over the weekend too. He goes hit piece, and he links to the story, and right there, look at that little cut line in Baton Rouge. And I'm not trying to do a little accent here either, Mike. I'm just saying it. You know, the way I was taught in the Midwest to say Baton Rouge. We're going over capitals. We're going over capitals in the 4th grade. All right. There's a $100 million football coach and everyone else. So that's the problem. That's why it's a hit piece, because there's a focus on money. Because he brought up money for Brian Kelly and everybody else who doesn't have the money. And you know what I find when it comes to hit pieces, Michael? That hit dogs holler. Okay. Yeah.
Couple other bones I have to pick when it comes to her tirade. LSU getting ready for their first round game. I don't mean to like minimize the amount of preparation and professionalism and practice and study that goes into what these phenomenal women do, these phenomenal athletes do. But it's LSU's first round game. Like, Kim Mulkey could have spent more time preparing her outfit, laying her outfit out on the bed than she needed to prepare for LSU's first round game.
Outfits. Let's see some more of those outfits. Let's see some more.
Number two. You had 2 days. It takes you 2 seconds to read an email. It takes you 2 hours to reply to an email. If he emailed you the questions, and 2 days is plenty of time. That's a generous amount of time to respond to just about anything. Knowing there was no way we could respond. You had 2 days. You make time for what you want to make time for. And speaking of which, and listen, I said before, Michael, plenty of times, I've never, or at least I've tried to never conduct myself as a reporter, as a journalist, with a sense of entitlement. I think a lot of us have a sense of entitlement, that we are owed access, or that we are owed time, or we are owed information. Maybe it's got to do with starting, A, is who I am, but I think maybe it has to do with starting out at the Boston Globe covering the Patriots, because they gave you nothing and you were going to like it. And so I never expected anything from the people that I covered. Having said that, a surefire way to get ahead of the story is to cooperate and conduct the interview, I don't know, anytime over the last 2 years. Own the story. Throw on some of that Southern charm. You know, like, he's got anonymous sources, whereas you're speaking on the record. That's journalism 101. Like, you can get out in front of it if you actually do the interview. Don't get pissed when he's been trying to interview you for 2 years, and then 2 days before your first round game still gives you the ethical, journalistic opportunity to respond to what's going to be in the article. And then you want to come out and, instead of responding to him, take it to the streets. Okay, since you took it to the streets, like, this is PR. This is such a PR failure. And honestly, Michael, what it is it's representative of what happens when an omnipotent college coach goes unchecked, and with all due respect, has too many people around her that she doesn't listen to, because some trained PR professional in the sports information department at LSU should have said, this ain't it. This is not the way to handle this. This is not the way to handle it. I don't know.
You got to
I know.
Nobody.
Right. Nobody. Right. But I'm saying, like, you would think that there would be somebody around her to say, hey, you know what you're going to do if you approach it like this? You're going to draw more attention to it. People are going to already rush to judgment before the stories have already come out, and already make determinations before the stories already come out based on how they feel about you already. Hey, how about this? How about you respond if and when it comes out accordingly? And guess what? In the 24/7, 2024 news cycle, people are going to forget about it quicker than you realize. Ain't nobody checking for Kim Mulkey like that. Ain't nobody in 2 days. By the time y'all get to the Final Four, nobody's gonna care. It's gonna unless it's that scathing, unless it's that damning. Because I believe the Washington Post motto is, "Democracy dies in the dark." Well, we also live by what's done in the dark comes to light.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand. I don't understand why.
What was she thinking? Because hubris. Hubris.
Why?
Because she's been able to she's been able to rule with an iron fist, and she can't control the media, and she gets pissed when somebody just dares defy her rule and don't come for me unless I send for you type thing. It's like, nobody. First of all, nobody's perfect, right? Everybody's complicated. So maybe he does the definitive Kim Mulkey piece. Maybe it's a definitive Kim Mulkey profile. It shouldn't be all roses. It shouldn't be a puff piece.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's going to be credible journalism. And maybe there'll be some complications. Maybe there'll be some things that, aren't the most flattering. But any great figure in history, leadership is lonely. Any great figure in history, there's going to be some good, there's going to be some bad, because you're human. It's like, for you to come out, again, the lady doth protest too much. It's like, even if he doesn't unearth it, there's something there. It may not be in this article, but there's something there. Whether it's revealed or not this time out, there's something there that she's hiding. And somebody just should have pulled her by her blazer and said, "Hey, coach, how about you just play basketball? How about just play basketball?" Because if you have all these positive stories about you, if you have all these
shoulder pads
players who swear by you, shoulder pads who swear by you, they will come to your defense. They will come to your defense.
Right.
This was a bad, poorly executed game plan by one of the greatest coaches in basketball history. Poorly executed game plan.
You said some smart things. You said some really smart things. I'm going to leave you with a couple, and I don't know if I've ever told you this before. A couple. One, you talk about profiles and how they shouldn't be puff pieces. And one of the things I've shared, I don't know if I've ever told you this story, but I've told this to some students who are working on profiles. And I'd say it's supposed to be a balance. It's supposed to be a balance.
Correct.
And not an artificial balance, but it's just thorough. The more people you talk to,
it's supposed to be holistic.
The more layered, the more complete.
If you ain't got critics, you ain't doing it right. You're supposed to talk to your critics.
So when we were both working at the Boston Globe, you probably got this too. Every now, this is before I was teaching. I had students from BU and BC and Northeastern used to come to me and say, "I got a class assignment. I've got to write about a journalist. Can I write a story about you?" And I'd always say yes. I'd never turn anybody down, but it was always with the caveat. I'd say, "Yes, you can, but once you I don't need to see the story before it's done. After you finish the story, you turn it in and get your grade. I hope you get an A. After you turn the story in, hey, can I take a look at it?" And they'd say, "Sure," and they'd follow up. And I'd look at these stories, and they all had this through line of positivity. So the next time I said, "Okay, I'm sick of this." I said, "Wait until the next student asks me to do a story." Sure enough, student asked, "Hey, can I do a story?" I said, "Yes, you can. I got two things for you now. One, I'd like to see the story once you turn it in. But two, I need you to contact my ex-girlfriend." Okay? I need you to contact my ex-girlfriend, and I want you to ask her about me. I'm talking about an ex-girlfriend who, hear the name Michael Holly, and before I talk, she might spit before she starts talking. I said, I need that kind of detail in there because I don't want you to write some story that is not representative of all the things I've said, all the things I've done,
The mistakes I made. Right.
Sure enough, she did it. And that's the point. I just wanted to get the point. I was teaching her before I even taught. This is what you do. You try to get as many, not that you're looking for dirt, but there are parts of my life that you've just skipped over. Let alone the students who kept saying I was from Columbus, and I told them Akron. People told them I was from, the students who wrote I was from Cleveland, Akron. I'm taking points off there. I never told you I was from Cleveland. Where'd you get that from? That's one thing. But then the second thing you said was, hey, we're not entitled to information. I agree with that 100%. to the point, I get down to the details. When I was writing articles and somebody didn't comment, I wouldn't even write they declined to comment. I wouldn't write that. I'd say they elected not to comment, just because I thought decline was negative. So I mean, I take that seriously. But on the flip side, one of the most famous stories in journalism history was written in 1967 by a guy named Gay Talese. The story is called "Frank Sinatra Has a Cold." It was published in Esquire, and the story is famous. Why? Because Gay Talese was assigned to write about Frank Sinatra, and Frank Sinatra never agreed to an interview.
Correct.
And yet,
Correct.
the story is a classic. What's the point? The story is going to be written whether you cooperate or not.
And those are some of the best, to your point. Like,
So you might
oftentimes
as well
people are
jump
not
in
going to
there.
agree. That's the best journalists do that. The best journalists find a way to write about somebody, whether or not they talk to that person directly or not. And 9 out of 10 times, the other people around that person, in that person's orbit, will give you better information than the person will first person anyway. Or at least you talk to them first and bring better information to the table. No, I'm with you 100% on that, on those masterclass points you just brought up, man. Like, yeah,
But, I'll tell you the
Yeah,
flaw,
go ahead, I'm
though.
sorry.
I'll tell you the flaw in retrospect of telling that student to contact my ex-girlfriend. It might have been seen as a passive-aggressive way of kind of rekindling something, which was not the point. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't trying to do that. That wasn't the point. But I can see how it might be misinterpreted. But I digress.
And one other side note, and this is as the term media has gotten muddied, because media means a lot of things nowadays. Media does not mean what it meant in 1967 or even in 2001 at the Boston Globe, right? It's evolved, to say the least, which is a whole nother conversation, but everybody else, I assume, knows what I'm talking about. It's like there's this new thing where the subjects, it's not a new thing, it's always been a non-starter. But it seems to be something that's more acceptable nowadays because more and more people seem to be asking for it. The subjects want the questions ahead of time. I'm sorry? I beg your pardon? The questions ahead of time. You're not getting approval over this. You're not getting to pick and choose. Like, either you're going to do the interview or you're not. So again, she can complain all she wants about it only being 2 days of advance notice. That's all you're entitled to. Some people won't. Yeah. Some people won't give you that long. Some people will say, "Hey, this is going out in the morning. This is going out tomorrow."
Or they'll just go.
Right. Or they'll just go.
After 2 years.
Exactly.
After 2 years, it's like, okay, all right, this is what it is, and I think we're just gonna go. But I think, Mike, and this is not just an LSU story. This happens at LSU and Ohio State, and USC had a thing too. A while we talked about it earlier this year, where they just wanted to manage the media. I didn't like that either. These are great, by the way, great journalism schools. USC, great journalism school. Arizona State, BU, like all these places, we have great journalism schools. But the people in charge or the people with power don't want to accept that journalism is happening. And so they try to control it or they try to squash it. But if I were in one of these positions, I would say, if I'm, Kim Mulkey, Brian Kelly, anybody else, I need somebody on staff who will say, you know what, I disagree with you. I disagree with you. No, you're wrong.
You don't need yes men or women.
You need to pay somebody to tell you, if you're too insecure, pay somebody to tell you that you're wrong. And
sure
leave their job out of it. Give them the
sure a PR firm
keeping their job.
would have told her or them, this isn't a battle you want to fight. You certainly don't want to start this fight. Being the aggressor in this instance is not in your best interest. Now listen, I'm sure anybody that's indulged us for as long as we've been talking about this and has listened to this conversation, thank you. But it's probably being like, of course these two clowns gonna cape up for the media. They're in the media. Like, what else y'all gonna say? Of course y'all gonna see it from the media side. No, not necessarily. Yes and no, I would say. Because, again, I want to read the article first before I judge the content of it to
it might be
determine whether or not it's credible.
It might be awful.
But
I don't know.
Or it may not be as scathing as she thinks, or it may be fair. Because my only objective as a journalist has always been to be fair. I'm not here to be nice. I'm not here to be liked. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to be fair. Nobody can. All I want is if somebody decides to talk about me as a journalist, is they say, you know what? I didn't always agree with him, but he was fair. He tried to get it right. Yeah. Okay. The only thing that alarmed me, so in fairness, I was alarmed, and again, I respect Kim Babb's work. So I'm inclined to think this is not true or some sort of embellishment. But when she claimed, it's just her side, that he was kind of misrepresenting Kim Mulkey's participation in the project and would call colleagues of hers and say, "I'm with Coach Mulkey," to get them to talk. That's unethical. I hope he didn't do that. I haven't. Did he? I don't know if he addressed that on Twitter or not. I haven't been reading his Twitter feed to see. I don't know if he's addressed it or not. I hope that's not true. And the other part about giving them anonymity in exchange for negative commentary on Kim Mulkey, is that their interpretation, or is that her assumption? I doubt seriously that he said, "Hey, listen. You talk shit about Kim Mulkey, I'll keep it off the record." I mean, I'm sure most people give off the record, to protect from any kind of retribution, so that people can speak freely. But I doubt that that's what he led with. It's like, hey, give me something negative, and I'll give you, and I'll keep it off the record. So that seems like an embellishment. But again, if either of those things are true, that's not cool, even from the Washington Post.
Last thing I'll say about it is this. I'm not caping up for the media. I'm just amused that she went to these lengths before a story was published. So I don't know.
Absolutely. No, I'm assuming that people. I'm assuming that people will assume that we're biased. Is why I said that.
Yeah.
Because what we do. Yeah. Right.
But look, I'm not on. Yeah. I'm not on his side. I'm not on his side because I don't know what.
We don't know what the story says.
I don't know what the word is. I don't know. I don't know.
And even then.
But and I wasn't gonna read it. Then, sorry, kid.
What is it?
Nothing personal.
What's the saying?
I wasn't gonna read it. But now I am.
Believe half of what you hear and none of what you read, or you know what I'm saying, the lie is halfway around the world before the truth gets its pants on. It's like even after we read it, we still have to take it for what it's worth, and still have to be intellectually curious enough to not take it as gospel. Who said it? It's not Tennessee Williams. Who said that? Who said that journalism is writing what they don't want you to write? Everything else is just PR.
It's PR.
Who is that?
Yes.
Who is that?
I don't know.
That's not Tennessee.
It's a famous quote, but it's great. It's great out there. Yeah, I've used that many times.
I should know that.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.